The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism-Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Nancy Allspaw Jackson.
And I'm Shannon Penrod.
Hi, Shannon.
Thrilled to be here with you.
Yeah, thrilled to be here with you.
It's we're getting down to it, right? It's like it really is only like 2 weeks after midsummer, which is always weird, but a lot of us are getting ready to go back to school. And,
I know.
It's just like I'm not ready for it this year.
No, it seems like it's been a very short summer.
Where did the time all go? But we've got a big show for you and a lot that we got to get the wheels on the bus here because there's so much to unpack here.
Right.
So we're going to start with some in the news here. A lot of unfortunate news today. You know, I always try to find something that's happy for us for a palate cleanse. And I guess, you know, things have a progression. Everything that we have has a bad, and then it has a progression that hopefully it gets better towards the end. But I don't know if you guys have been following it. I'm not very up on personalities.
I'm not up on a lot of the current music acts.
At all. But so there's a group called Echo Smith.
Echo Smith.
And the drummer, Graham Sirota, has been having a little bit of difficulty in the last week to the point where his family felt that it was necessary to come forward and disclose that he has an autism spectrum disorder. Apparently, he's 20 years old, and he has been having these events at his house for a little while. He had one during the holidays, but recently he was having a barbecue, and he was sending out texts to a whole lot of people and saying, you know, come to my barbecue, to a lot of other celebrities. And he sent one to Travis Barker's 13-year-old daughter, and he says now he did not know that she was 13. And in the course of the texting with her, he told her that he thought she was beautiful, and invited her to a barbecue at his house.
Right.
Now, in his mind, he thought she was older. I don't know how old he thought she was, but in his mind, he did not think that there was anything untoward about that. But as the dad of a 13-year-old, Travis Barker went, you know, from 0 to 160, and I would have too. Wouldn't you have?
Yeah.
And said, what is this 20-year-old dude inviting and telling my 13-year-old daughter that she's beautiful? This is inappropriate.
Right.
And so then there was this firestorm back and forth, and then finally the family came forward and said, hey, we haven't disclosed this before because we didn't think it was necessary.
Right.
It wasn't affecting anything in terms of what we do as a band.
They've never had an issue with
it. And said, you know, we're now going to work on this because we've now seen a deficit of something that he did not understand. It's, you know, it's not okay what he did, but, you know, it wasn't with this horrible
intention.
Right, but look, this is something that happens, and I think the reason why I want to talk about this story is that we all need to be aware of this.
Right.
Right? That, you know, when our kids are younger, everything is all cute and fabulous, right? And then they get to a certain age and nothing's cute and fabulous and nobody gives them a pass anymore.
Right.
And goes, oh, well, that's just precocious or that's just whatever. And then at a certain point, they cross a certain threshold and then they start being accused of things. We've seen people on the autism spectrum go to jail or be stopped by the police because of something that they did not understand socially. I love that the 13-year-old has published a tweet saying that essentially she's accepted the apology and that it's time for people to move on. and that she is fine now, and that she's fine with the understanding that's happened with the other family. It just, and I wouldn't have even brought it up, except that I think it really starts a conversation, don't you, Nancy, about our kids and about safety and all the things. I appreciate this family thinking, hey, we didn't disclose it because there was no need to. We didn't see it being, and then you get sort of blindsided and it's like, oh my gosh, my 20-year-old kid said one thing that was inappropriate in a pretty, not in a private forum, but then went public, and it can be very, very negative. So
The family's going to continue to work with Graham to have the right tools and knowledge about social boundaries and to better navigate and utilize social media while he takes a break from it.
which is the
So
right
they'll-
response.
they'll work with
Let's
him.
congratulate them on
Yeah.
that. And then, of course, we've talked about Greta Thunberg before on the show, the amazing advocate.
Environmental activist.
Oh my gosh.
Who is
she
on
not
the
sharp?
autism spectrum.
She is sharp.
Yes.
And Andrew Bolt, who is a high-profile columnist for Rupert Murdoch's newspapers and Sky News, commentator, talked about this 16-year-old and referred to her as being deeply disturbed, freakishly influential, and strange, in a piece that was published last Wednesday. I love that this 16-year-old responded by turning his own words back at him and said that she was deeply disturbed by the hate and conspiracy campaigns run by climate science deniers. Isn't that so amazing that she just turned it right back on?
Yeah.
There's been a firestorm about this, about people going, excuse me. And here's what I'd like to say is that wouldn't be okay for him to say that about any 16-year-old.
Exactly.
There's another element to it too, that
Right.
she is publicly out as being on the spectrum, and that's a whole other element to it. But why is he saying this about any 16-year-old?
I don't know. Doesn't make
The parent
sense.
in me really wants to take him apart inch by inch, and I think he should be fired. And no one should read any of the publications until that's how I feel. But that's me in my anger. Where does it hit you, Nancy?
Well, I think he owes her an apology at the very least.
At the very least.
At the very least. And he needs to be schooled in autism and what, the way to behave towards someone who is on the spectrum when he's writing about them. It's just unacceptable.
But I don't like the way our society treats individuals who are under the age of 18 to begin with.
Right.
Where does he get off? I mean, we just covered a story where we're all saying inappropriate that this 20-year-old said something to a 13-year-old. And I think we're in the right there. You need to be savvy enough to know you can't say whatever you want to kids.
Right.
But why is this other adult okay with saying the things in print about this 16-year-old? I think that we should have some norms that prevent people from being able to attack people who are under the age of 18.
Yeah.
I just think it's so inappropriate. It's
is.
just bad behavior. And he really goes for the jugular as if he is fighting somebody who is an adult who's arguing face to face with him. It's just horrible, the things that he says about her. He says, I've never seen a girl so young with so many mental disorders treated by so many adults as a guru. If I was his mother, I would want him to be taken out behind the barn with a switch. Come on. What an idiot. Not interested in anything else that Andrew Bolt has to say except an apology and a resignation. That's what I'm interested in. But ask me how I really feel. I get my ticket torn.
Well, there's a lot of people upset about it.
It's just horrible.
Yeah.
And then, of course, our last story we covered in 2016. Everybody was very aware of that horrible video of the autism caregiver sitting in the parking lot with his client.
Yes.
And the police were there with a gun
And shot him.
and shot the caregiver as he was trying to say, he has autism. I'm working with him, and so the police officer was found guilty of a misdemeanor on Monday. I'm not going to say the name of the police officer because I don't believe that that's the responsible thing to do, but he was found guilty of a misdemeanor. I don't know what the ramifications and the differences are between a misdemeanor and a felony and all of those things, but I guess we need to be happy that he was found guilty of something. And that perhaps that will mean more training and more discussion about this, and maybe this will prevent this happening again.
Yeah.
But just like one of the most horrifying things
Yes.
in the world. And the fact that we could hear, but this is not the only case, right?
You could hear him calming him down and working with him, and so he shot him anyway.
It just takes your breath away.
Yeah.
It just takes your breath away. More training, more training, more training. So there's our not the happiest of news
Not
today.
the happiest of news.
But everything moving in a direction, hopefully, of people doing the right thing. So we've got this amazing show for you today. We really do. Our first guest is the just truly talk about a Wonder Woman. Julie Kornack is going to be joining us. We've had her on the show a couple of times. And she is really going to break down for us and explain to us what the Mental Health Parity Act is and what that can mean for all of us. She's also going to give us an update. For some of you watching, you're going to be really thrilled to hear this in New York. Some new things that are happening there that are going to make it possible for more people to have access to care. So Julie's going to be with us, and then we're going to be joined by Mark Fleming. He's going to talk with us about Puzzle Piece Fitness, why he started it, and what that's all about. So all of that and more coming up after these messages.
Okay.
Stick with us.
Do you provide care services to someone with autism? Recently, more and more children are being diagnosed with the condition and getting the support they need as awareness grows. But what happens to these children as they grow up? It's estimated that over 500,000 youth with autism will turn 18 in the next decade, and they'll be faced with a very difficult reality. As children with autism grow up, their services start to disappear or become very difficult to access. Things like medical care, mental health counseling, vocational training, and more. All services that are still desperately needed. The loss of support that youth with autism face as they grow up is so severe that it's referred to in the autism community as falling off a cliff. Adults with autism need the same level of support they had as children to avoid falling off the services cliff. Introducing Skills Living, the web-based software designed specifically to help transitioning youth and adults with autism so they can avoid the cliff and instead fly to success. With Skills Living, help your learner with autism develop the skills they need in all the critical areas of adult life, including self-control, planning, and problem-solving, effective communication, performing life skill tasks for independent living, acquiring and maintaining employment or other meaningful activities, developing and maintaining social skills and relationships, accessing transportation and public services, and being safe. Skills Living includes a comprehensive assessment, a data collection mobile app, behavior intervention plan builder, and automatic progress reporting. It also provides a complete curriculum addressing 16 key areas spanning the entire range of functioning adulthood. Skills Living is easy to use and can be implemented by schools, parents, and autism service providers. Call or click today for your free demo and see how Skills Living can help your learner with autism avoid the cliff and instead reach their fullest potential. Skills Living. Wish, learn, become.
Hi everyone, welcome to Camp Ed 2019. And we are so excited because this is our first camp where we're in our new home. We have an incredible ballroom dance class going right now, so let's come and take a look.
Camp Ed at the Ed Asner Family Center is an inclusive arts camp featuring some of your favorite arts programs. We have a little over 3 weeks of camp left. We want you to come and join the excitement.
Hi, I'm Nava Pasquet-Asner, the co-founder of the Ed Asner Family Center and the founder of Camp Ed. And I'd like to introduce you to Andrew Pascal, who is my new camp director for 2019.
We have a very action-packed last 3 weeks of camp. Next week we have Art Week, where we're gonna do a color run. We're gonna get really colorful. We're gonna tie-dye some clothes. The week after that, we're doing Heroes Week, where we're gonna talk about heroes as well as fictional superheroes. Our last week is Surf Week and Celebration Week. And Nava, can you tell us a little bit about Surf Week?
Yes, definitely. This is my favorite day of the entire summer. We're going to be working with the amazing surf therapists of A Walk on Water, and they're just going to give us a great day, beach, fun, just a really wonderful, safe day. Please come join us at Camp Ed 2019.
Yeah!
Woo-hoo!
To join us for a week or the next 3 weeks, call us at 818-302-0712. Once again, that's 818-302-0712. Camp Ed and the Ed Asner Family Center were created by our family for your family.
Well, I'll be hornswoggled.
Hi, I decided to start Autism Works Now as a small business because 90% of individuals with autism and related disabilities are not employed after graduating from high school. Our mission at Autism Works Now is to create job opportunities for spectrum youth and kids through awareness and education.
Welcome
And we're
back.
back.
And we, as
One of our
promised,
favorite people, Julie Kornack. What's your title now, Julie?
Oh my gosh, you're always testing
it's
me.
a big deal.
Vice President of Government Relations.
Okay,
Which
great.
and that's for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders.
Yes.
Right.
It's a very big deal. Whenever our brains hurt too hard about government things, we run to Julie and say, "Explain this to us," which is often for me. Maybe not as much for you, Nancy,
Yes,
but
it still is.
I'm always like, "Explain it to me,"
Right.
because I'm just not quite getting it. So we're going to start, Julie, with having you explain to us that something big is going on in New York State.
Yes, not just New York, but New York is one of the ones we've had our eye on for a while. We're very
Okay.
excited. So in 2014, July of 2014, so just a little over 5 years ago, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, which we call CMS, made an announcement that sort of clarified that they call it an informational bulletin directing states to cover autism treatment for their pediatric population. That means for everyone under 21. And so some states were, complied with that more quickly than others. And CMS doesn't, they understand that it's a big thing to shift into, and they allow the states to have some time to do it. And two of the states that were really slow to comply, that are very populous, are New York and Texas. And now this year, both have complied at the same time. So it's sort of like this, amazing momentum that we're feeling.
It's a watershed moment.
It's a watershed moment because honestly, this has just been a focus because we know that we're talking about millions of children when we're talking about those two states. And so Texas is rolling out its benefit no earlier than September, so I think we can expect something closer to January. And then also the same target is for New York, that in January of 2020, people who have Medicaid will be able to access autism treatment benefits.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a
Big
very
deal.
big deal.
It's a very,
How
very
many
big
states
deal.
have it now?
It's a great question. So people will sort of disagree about that because some states will have sort of added the benefit without creating the infrastructure for the benefit to work. Ohio is a state like that. So it doesn't mean, so if you were a persistent parent, you would probably be able to get the benefit, but it wouldn't happen very easily and you wouldn't be able to find your provider network and you would just have to really push hard on your Medicaid folks. And so I'd say about a little over 30 states offer the benefit now. And then there are going to be people who will say it's closer to 40 states, but I'm not counting the ones that don't function.
Okay.
So, but I expect New York, they're doing a really good job reaching out to the community and trying to make sure that they understand everything they need to be able to roll out the benefit in a way where it will function well. And Texas is doing the same thing. Oklahoma just started offering the benefit July 1st, so we'll see how that goes. New Hampshire just fixed its benefit, so it's working better. Just a lot of good news.
You're having a good year,
I feel,
Julie.
if I could take credit for all of this, it would just be,
Well, and I think there's some confusion because
Yes.
a lot of us go by the mandate. We hear the mandate. Now, I'm not
Yeah.
sure that everybody knows what the mandate is, but we say that a lot. Well, the
Right.
mandate. And now, as of a couple of weeks ago, we have the mandate in all 50 states. Tennessee was the last
well, we
to
do.
topple.
100%, yeah,
100%.
as of last week. And so the mandates are essentially, in most states, they're bills that were passed because of this amazing autism community that really generated the political will for people to get something done. And so state by state, led by Laura Unum when she was at Autism Speaks, and state by state, they passed these autism mandates. And then recently what's happened, which is kind of exciting for me, is that instead of having to pass a specific bill to say that these kids should access coverage, they say that the mental health parity law says you have to give them coverage.
Yeah.
So in Tennessee, there's just clarification from the insurance commissioner saying, by the way, it's clear from mental health parity that these kids get to access autism treatment. So that's one of those things where I like that, because the more we can strengthen the mental health parity law and make sure that the insurance commissioners, the state regulators understand what it means, the more all of the autism mandates that we did pass will be enforced by those regulators.
And we're gonna talk about the mental health parity in just a second, but let's cycle back because we've got new viewers who are watching us on BronxNet TV, and so I'm sure that they're going to want to know, what does this new thing in New York mean specifically for them? What should they be doing?
Okay.
How should they be preparing? How can they access this care?
This is such a great question. I would say, first of all, that if they are parents of a child who's already diagnosed with autism, the first thing that they want to do, if they haven't done this already, is apply to see if they're eligible for Medicaid.
Okay.
And that they'll be, nobody should assume that they're not eligible. Every state has different eligibility limits. New York's is pretty generous, and they should, so if they don't have any coverage for autism treatment, or if they do have some coverage, but they have high cost sharing, like their copays are really high and that kind of thing, then I would absolutely encourage these families to go to Medicaid to apply to see if their child is eligible for Medicaid. In some states, you have to be rejected as not eligible based on your income to then apply based on your child's disability.
Okay.
So if you get rejected, don't take no for an answer,
Okay.
go back. And these can be complicated processes, and you might be dealing with somebody who's new or doesn't have all the information.
Yeah, I'm dealing with that right now. My child qualifies under his disability.
Yeah.
But they're sending me information asking all this financial background from me.
That's exactly what happens, and
Right.
it's very confusing to the parents. So you just have to really kind of push forward, there's also ways to determine whether you should be eligible and whether they're making a mistake if they say you're not eligible. But it gets complicated, and really the easiest way is just to kind of go to Medicaid, apply, and get into that process that you're stuck in right now,
Right.
where you get to argue with somebody until you get
Exactly.
your benefit.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay, so, and when all else fails, apply under the financial thing, give them your financial
Yep.
information, get that denial, then come back to them and say, now we want to apply under disability, and
Right.
go through that process. Now, that could take a little bit of time.
It could,
That's
yeah.
not going to be a weekend.
People should get started.
Yeah. Because so you were saying September they will start with this benefit, but really
No, they'll
roll
start
out
in
will
New
be
York.
January.
They'll start in January.
Okay, January.
And the other thing is, if your child's been diagnosed at school but hasn't been diagnosed by someone who's not a school psychologist, Medicaid might not accept that diagnosis.
Okay.
So those are the kinds of things you can be exploring now to make sure that you have a diagnosis that they'll accept, or to go get the diagnosis through your, that they'll accept.
Okay, so you've got some legwork to do to be ready on January 1
Yes.
to be able to access this
Right.
benefit. If you have to, go find the place where you can get that assessment
Yes.
so that you got your paperwork all in a row.
Right.
And I love, one of the things that Autism Speaks used to give was a whole directive about how to take care of your paperwork. And how, get a low-cost scanner, get your paperwork, scan it in, keep it all in one file on your computer.
Yeah.
And label everything as you go. Get started with that because you're going to need these papers again
Sure.
and again and again and again. And you don't want to have to go looking for them. I can remember
That's
me doing
good
the mad
advice.
dash, going through piles of paper, going, where is the one piece of
Right.
paper that I
I
need?
know, that's
you
me.
You can drown and get the scanner.
And that can also kind of dissuade you from getting it done that day, and
Right.
before you know, months have gone by. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
I-
The other thing you can do is you can reach out to providers who are in your area to make sure they know that you're interested in getting services if they decide to accept the Medicaid benefit. Because we
Okay.
don't know which providers will accept the Medicaid benefit yet. We don't know how long it will take them to contract with Medicaid, all those kinds of things. So start exploring the providers who are local to you to see, if they have a long waiting list, if they know about the Medicaid benefit coming, if they're interested, if they think they're going to be accepting it. They may not know all of those things, but you can probably get on a list where they'll reach out to you once it rolls out.
And there's nothing like getting on the list as early as possible,
Getting on the
letting
list.
people know that you're interested, go tour the facility, get a feel for, how your life would work when you get this fabulous
Yeah.
opportunity.
Exactly.
And I will say too, that CARD is in a lot of places in New York. So definitely you can go to centerforautism.com and go to the locations tab, see where the closest office is next to you. Obviously, Julie is giving you this information, and she is the person that is doing this for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. So check it out. That's where my kid was treated. That's where your kid was treated. So
It's still being treated.
and there you go.
Right.
So check it out. So now let's shift a little bit because there's this other piece that everybody needs to know. We've already seen several families that have been at that point where they're like, okay, I can't get any more services. And for various and sundry reasons, one case in particular that I'm thinking of, that the mom got to me and was crying and said, we've been denied by our insurance company because my child is 10. And I was like, what do you mean you've been denied by your, well, they sent us a thing and said he no longer, because in our state, once they reach 10, they aren't eligible for benefits anymore. And I said, I don't know, but I think that's illegal. Let me get
Good
Julie
instinct.
Kornack on, on this and ask her. And that family, the hope
Yeah.
before they got everything done of, oh, you mean maybe we could continue with therapy, was life-changing. And share with everybody what you were able to share with all of us about this one particular thing that's saving everybody's bacon.
Well, there's a lot of laws that protect patient rights to access autism treatment and other mental health services. My favorite law, and I always say it's my favorite law.
Where's your pin?
I know, I should have worn the pin. I feel terrible. It's in my purse. I'm not being very organized. But my favorite law, if you don't have a favorite law, this should be your favorite law, is the Mental Health Parity and Addiction Equity Act. And that's a federal law that kind of puts into the law all the instincts that you have every day that this doesn't sound right. Is that legal? So what mental health parity says is that the restrictions on the limits on mental health services, and autism treatment is considered a mental health service, that those limits can be no more restrictive than they are for other medical surgical services in the same category. And those categories would be like outpatient services, not something like physical therapy. So in the old days, we would have somebody say, well, we limit physical therapy so we can limit autism treatment. I was like,
Right.
no, that's not how it works. And because of the essential health benefits from the Affordable Care Act, where you can't impose limits on those, then really any limit that you see on mental health services would not meet the test of being a limit that's not more restrictive than limits imposed on medical surgical services. So that that mental health parity law breaks down into quantitative treatment limits, which is pretty much anything with a number, like the child's age, the number of hours, how long the child's been getting services, how many visits a week, that kind of thing. And then the other one is non-quantitative treatment limits, which are a little bit more nuanced and really speak to all the instincts parents have out there when they run into strange hurdles, which would be sort of burdensome authorization processes, treatment plan templates that providers don't want to use because they're so complicated and they take so much time. Anything that requires additional testing or is a location exclusion, all of those things aren't permitted because of the Mental Health Parity and Addiction Equity Act. And that applies across the board to the self-funded plans, which is great because we know we run into a lot of problems with the self-funded plans, and it applies to the large group and to individual plans, and then indirectly to small group because of the Affordable Care Act. So it's a very powerful law, and we use it a lot. And that's why I was saying that when Tennessee said, you know what, we don't even need to pass a mandate. The mental health parity law tells us that we have to provide this benefit. I was so excited because the more we can see state regulators do that sort of thing, the more we can just point the next state regulator who's confused to that state regulator over there, and then, oh, okay, that makes sense to me. And you know, it really is something where we're getting momentum.
So you normally have a pin. Tell them what the pin says.
The pin says got MAPIA. MAPIA is what we call Mental Health Parity and Addiction Equity Act. And I have it on a sticker on my phone. I have a little lapel pin. And I give them out at conferences because when people see that, they all ask, what's MAPIA? And you know, I'll tell them.
and you know, and Julie genuinely gets excited about it. And then one of the reasons why we wanted her on to talk about it is that I think the rest of us go, well, that's nice, but it has so many ramifications.
Yes.
And sometimes you guys will write into us or you'll call us and you'll say, well, you know, I need this. And a lot of times what you really need is that MAPIA because it's the thing, it's the muscle that has you covered.
It is.
So for the person who says, okay, my insurance company is saying that they're not going to give my child this many hours because they're 10, or they're not going to give us any hours because they're 10, and in our state mandate, it says they will only give this amount up to this age, that you know, and they go, there's a state law, Shannon, there's nothing, I can't do anything about it.
Right.
But you've explained to me before that because MAPIA is a federal law, it wins.
Well, so this is such an important point that you're bringing up because a lot of the mandates were written with a pressure from the insurance lobbies to, you know, not pass the mandates.
Right.
And so when they were written, compromises were made. And so Hawaii is a great example where the insurance industry said it would cost them $1 billion a year to cover autism. And we all know that's not true. And thankfully, Autism Speaks has done a lot of actuarial studies to show that it really is just a few cents every month on people's premiums to cover autism treatment. Wow. And so when they were under the pressure trying to pass the mandate, a lot of legislators asked for limits to be able to sort of assuage the concerns of the insurance carriers who were threatening to leave the state and that kind of thing. And so a lot of these state mandates will have hour limits or age limits or even monetary limits. Yeah. And they all violate the mental health parity law. You can't have a state law that violates a federal law. And most of the really good news is that most of the time, the health plan that you have knows it needs to ignore those limits because they're very used to the fact that they don't get to have those.
But it's incumbent upon us to understand that because the insurance company is not going to call you up and go, by the way, this thing that we're doing, you know, if push comes to shove and you say something, we really can't do that. And a lot of times when we call the first person at the insurance company, that's that first level person that you've called the number and you've gone through the decision tree to get to that person on the phone, often that person is not the best informed person working for the company.
Right. You're absolutely right. I think that a lot of those people are, you know, new to the company, not trained specifically in the autism mandate and that sort of thing, or they don't understand mental health parity. That's going to take us some time. So it's important for parents to be empowered with the knowledge that any any kind of a limit that they hear that just is not individualized to their child, that it's just like the law says that we don't have to treat you after this age, or our policy says that you only get 4 years, anything like that violates the mental health parity law.
Wow. We could spend hours talking with you, Julie. Unfortunately, we're out of time. But
I think it simplified it, though, for our viewers.
Yes.
I hope so.
And if you have questions, who should they go to?
Well, anybody can email me at j.kornack@centerforautism.com. I'm happy to, I think that my email is even on our website under policy resources, but and you can
I hope you don't get it inundated.
I'm happy for that.
Okay,
I really,
awesome.
because I do think we all need to be on the same page. And I just want to close with every year I go as a member of the National Coalition for Access to Autism Services. It's a provider consortium in Washington, D.C., and we go and we lobby and to make people aware of mental health parity. And this is the first year that I didn't have to explain what mental health parity was to any of the staffers that we talk to, of any of the senators, any of the congressmen, congresswomen. Everybody knows what mental health parity is, and they're all very supportive of it. It's not a divisive issue.
Well, that's got to feel good for you, because I know you've been working hard to get to that tipping point. Isn't it nice to know that there's people like Julie Kornack in your corner that are working these kinds of things while you're sleeping? She's pushing and finding out the information about what's already there, but pushing for these things, and I hope protecting. I'm worried about the mental health parity, in terms of if something happens and you feel like it's in jeopardy, you will tell us and we will
let you
mobilize,
know.
right?
We're making sure it's in all the new proposals that come out and all that.
Great,
Yeah.
great, Julie.
Thank you so much for being with
your
us.
activism.
Well, thank you for having me.
Okay.
It's a thrill. All right, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to be back with Mark Fleming from Puzzle Piece Fitness.
He's
So
an
stick
adult
with us.
autistic entrepreneur.
There we go. Stick with us.
Can you say hello? Say hello.
AJ?
Stop crying.
AJ, let's eat. Can you eat, AJ? Let's eat, son. Have a fry. My understanding of autism was very limited.
He would lick tires on cars, windows, you name it. And so we went to the 13-month checkup, and I remember our pediatrician, he said, well, he probably has autism. There's nothing you can do about it. Come back in a year when he's 3.
Our initial understanding of what the ABA program was basically all we picked up from this clinic in San Antonio.
He didn't pick up any signs the entire 8 months that he was there. I think the difference came when we changed vendors.
We were very impressed with the way that CARD actually gathered data to be able to quantify the progress that he was making. They have a curriculum that they follow that's tailored to each child. They were identifying AJ's strengths and weaknesses.
We were finally starting to see real progress.
Good, AJ. Here's eggs.
The first thing CARD did for us was, I remember the first time AJ said, "Mommy, I want you." And that was the most wonderful thing ever. There's hope. That's when I knew that there was hope. I never thought that AJ would be able to say that. It was like a gift from God. It was so fantastic.
With CARD, we got him enrolled in a private school.
And he was in a typical classroom. He would go from activity to activity. He could sit when he was supposed to sit. He could be around typical kids. The goal is for CARD to work themselves out of a job. It's for AJ to be in a mainstream classroom with no help, and he's functional and he's learning. We're really grateful to all of the therapists. AJ would not be where he is without them, and we will never be able to repay the part of themselves that they gave to him to make his life better and to make our lives better.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Hi, welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Lisa Ackerman. We're here doing allergy-free cooking, and I brought my sister with me today.
Jamie Davis, thanks for having me.
A lot of people are asking about an allergy-free breakfast, and breakfast can be full of crap. You know,
But it's
breakfast,
full of crap
cereal.
and it's hard to do. We
Yeah.
don't have time in the morning. We're in a hurry.
We're going completely nut-free. The recipe is not
Personality, we can't do
Yeah,
anything
can't do
about.
anything about that. So we're going to start off first with, I'm using sorghum and brown rice flour. I find the texture good, and I've added some flaxseed meal. We talked about that last time, flaxseed meal for poop. Almost every one of our kids has a poop issue. What's next on the recipe is the quinoa flakes, baking powder, cinnamon, and the xanthan gum. It brings the glutinous texture back into the flour. And often what happens with these recipes is they can fall apart. This one holds up nicely. I like it. For the folks that are egg-free, we have a ton of egg replacers. One of those can be the arrowroot starch or bringing back some additional flaxseed. So there's a lot of options to go eggless, but we're going to go egg full in this one. For sweetener, I use the maple syrup. I stay away from refined sugar. What I'm adding now is the coconut milk, maple syrup, and a little bit of the coconut oil. And we're going to add in the raisins, craisins, and chocolate chips at the end. I find that chocolate chips can coax people to eat some really amazing things. When we started, Jeff had 42 food allergies, so we had to get creative in how we cooked. So nuts were a big, big issue. What I like now is that he can tolerate so many more things after start doing this diet. So let me show you how you can deal with this sticky stuff here. You get your fingers really wet, and you can push it down. So my oven has been preheated. It's at 350 degrees. So we're gonna just throw this in. Like I said, I like it around 23 minutes, and the magic oven says, I'm done. Looks like, don't you love magic ovens? They're awesome. There we go, pops right out. The texture of these, and it's so pretty, it looks almost like a big chocolate chip cookie, but you actually made it healthy. But you can be my guinea pig. Tell me what you think.
That looks really good.
Doesn't it? So the textures and the colors in there are just beautiful. So the raisins are for you, the chocolate chips are for your kid.
I can't believe it's gluten-free.
I know, right? It doesn't taste like, you know, crap. We're wrapping up another cooking show. If you have feedback, you can email us at autismlive@gmail.com. We're, of course, on Facebook. You could go to facebook.com/autismlive. And of course, Talkin' Now has thousands of recipes. Join me there, and we can cook some more later on. So thanks for joining us.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild, let's get.
Parent to parent, you might be asking yourself sometimes, why does my child have meltdowns? Well, the difference between tantrums and meltdowns, they're a part of typical development, but meltdowns are when things get a little bit more out of control, when even the child isn't sure what's entirely wrong. Generally with a meltdown, there's an environmental component. There's something else going on outside the child that's making the tantrum worse. It's really important that we start to be detectives and take notes and look around at the environment and start to figure out what are the things that happen every time your child has a meltdown. And lastly, it's important to get help. You really can't face these kinds of things effectively completely on your own. Tantrums, they're a part of typical development, but don't accept meltdowns as something that just happens. Make sure you get help and support. You might be asking yourself if your child has autism. Welcome back. I'm like lights on, nobody home. Okay, we had a little bit of technical difficulty. We have Mark Fleming joining us via Skype. And so, Mark, welcome to the show. We should say that Mark is an adult autistic entrepreneur, and he has founded a personal training business called Puzzle Piece Fitness LLC. Everything is not my friend right now, but what I love, Mark has a bachelor's and a master's degree in exercise science from the University of Alabama. He is a certified personal trainer and a group fitness instructor from the American Council on Exercise, along with numerous specialty certifications. He also wrote a research paper in grad school regarding all of the research done on autism spectrum disorders and exercise, which I want to see this. Anyway, Mark, welcome and thank you so much for being with us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm thrilled to have you here. Talk to us a little bit about how you founded Puzzle Piece Fitness.
So I went through grad school doing exercise science, and shortly after, I was having some trouble getting a job. So I ended up taking a job as a behavior assistant. And during that job, I found that there was a deficit in between kids graduating from OT and PT, and then they would come to Special Olympics in their 30s and 40s and show some of the same deficits that had been corrected in therapy.
And
so I decided I know exercise, so I can fill in that gap.
Well, and there's a lot of people, Mark, that just don't understand what an important piece exercise is for individuals on the autism spectrum. Clearly, you get it. Teach all of us about why this is such an important piece of the puzzle.
Because it helps reduce the stress, and if you reduce the stress, you can also possibly reduce some STEM behavior, which then can help a child learn a lot more in a shorter amount of time, and thus improve a lot of functions throughout life. There's also obviously cardiovascular diseases that you can prevent, and other things like that. So obviously the main benefit is to kind of help with focus and decrease stress.
And so talk a little bit about, from your personal experience, what exercise has meant for you and what has it helped you with.
Excuse me, can you repeat that?
How has exercise affected you in your life? How did you benefit from exercise?
Well, it definitely helped me to be more social. Sports growing up was kind of my outlet. So being able to participate in sports and then use that as kind of a focus while I was interacting with others greatly improved my socialization skills. And then obviously with stress, I was a lot less stressed every time I was active during my childhood and whatnot. So, that's great.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful. And look at you. You're a successful entrepreneur. And you have some pretty strong feelings about the importance of disclosing your diagnosis as a professional in the workforce. How do you feel about this? What's your stance on this?
I think it's very important for individuals with autism, whether or not they're high functioning or whatever you want to classify them as, to disclose their diagnosis in the workforce, because it not only helps people in their job to help them kind of realize why they may need help in certain areas, but it also helps the younger generation to understand that there are other things that they can do besides kind of the arts and the technological stuff, that there's other avenues out there for them.
You're an amazing, amazing role model. I'm sure that there are going to be people who are going to want to know at what age were you diagnosed, and what were some of the things challenges that you faced growing up. I don't mean to be personal, but are those questions you're comfortable with?
Yeah, I was originally diagnosed with PDD-NOS at a young age, and that was mainly due to fine and gross motor skills and speech delays. But then I was diagnosed with autism, Asperger's, at age 11. And a lot of my issues had to deal with socialization. Besides the fine and gross motor stuff, making friends wasn't very easy. I was pretty okay at school, but besides that, it was mainly socialization was the worst.
And we're running out of time, but I know that one of the things that parents frequently, when they realize, oh my goodness, my child needs to get some of this physical work, and they're not sure who to take them to, are there certifications that we should look for? Is that something that's important if we're taking our child who has a disability to do this kind of work?
Yeah, it's very important to, when you're looking at personal training, to get a certified personal trainer. There's a lot of individuals out there right now that don't have any sort of credentials. There's people out there that have weekend certifications that are working with individuals with disabilities. And I believe that sends a wrong message to the individuals with disabilities, saying that they don't kind of deserve professionals to work with them. So definitely making sure that who's working with your child or your loved one, make sure that they are certified, because there's a lot of things that go into that certification process that ensures the safety of the individual being trained.
Which certifications should we look for? You are certified by the American Council on Exercise. Clearly that's a good one. Are there other ones that we should be looking for?
The National Academy of Sports Medicine.
Okay.
And also ACSM, the Academy the ACSM and NASM. I don't remember what the abbreviations are right now, but those two are probably the top organizations. And obviously the American Council on Exercise is also a good one.
Wonderful. But this is an important piece that people need to be aware of. Exercise, as you said, everybody's looking for the answer to the stress piece. Like, all of us have kids on the spectrum that are in different places in terms of anxiety and stress. But there have been so many studies too that have shown that exercise and crossing the midline can help with cognition. You were saying that it helps with social skills. There's a great deal of research that's been done on this. Now, if people want to come to Puzzle Piece Fitness in particular, where can they find more information?
They can go to www.puzzlefit.com.
Okay. Mark, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
And we hope to have you back again soon. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Sounds great. Bye.
All right, we're going to take a short break, and then Nancy and I are going to come back to close out the show. Stick with us.
Nobody ever asks a kid with autism, what is it you'd really like to do? At this school, we ask the kids, what is your goal? What is your dream? Exceptional Minds is a vocational training program for young adults on the autism spectrum who want to have careers in computer animation and visual effects. I think young people with autism are totally underestimated.
When you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. They all have different talents, different skills, and what surprised me is that there really are no limits, that if these guys believe that they can do something, they really can.
It's estimated that 90 to 95% of young adults with autism are unemployed or underemployed.
A lot of young adults still live at home. A lot of them suffer from depression and are very isolated from the rest of the world, and the opportunities for them are very limited.
We want to develop careers for our young adults. Our full-time program runs 3 years, at the end of which we have job placement and job coaching. We have a work readiness program. We also have our own in-house studio so that when our students graduate, they can do on-the-job training and work on real projects.
We outsourced about 30-40 shots to the team here. They did fantastic work that we can put into a movie and be proud of it. It's great. I mean, we want to do it again.
The studio is their first step into the professional world, the first step in their new careers as digital artists.
The whole purpose is to get the students out into the real world.
We all have the same dreams. We want significance,
dignity, and purpose with our lives. We have an opportunity to give those 3 words to every single student at this school who will actually be able to go out and participate in the dream.
This is my first full-time, full-paying job. I primarily work in After Effects. I learned After Effects at Exceptional Minds. It seemed like a good place for me to fit in because I was interested in animation.
Right from the first day that Nicky set foot in our company, he was producing work for us. We saw what level of professionalism is being instilled in them from the very beginning.
This was the first opportunity where Nicky could combine something he loved to do with something he was really, really good at that could eventually lead to employment.
When we first met Kevin, he was working at a supermarket bagging groceries, and they said he would never amount to anything else.
I work at Stargate Studios, and I'm a junior compositor. I mainly do like rotoscoping right now, and I'm still learning.
I think that you find great talent in the most amazing places. The students at Exceptional Minds have had a fair amount of training to get them ready for the visual effects environment.
If it wasn't for Exceptional Minds, I might still be at the supermarket, and I might be living at my parents' house.
Everything's changed. Nicky has purpose.
It feels like I'm a member of society now.
He's capable of making it on his own.
Once you get inside and you see what's really happening there, you immediately want to be a part of it.
It's the dream factory, you know, the movie business, and if you can connect people with their dreams, then the magic happens.
At Exceptional Minds, we like to say that we are changing lives one frame at a time.
And we're back.
And we have things to talk about for
Yes,
next week.
you've got some stuff for next week coming up.
On Monday, we have Jackie Carter, creator of the Not Reaching Pouch.
Okay.
So this is a very interesting thing. You know, what they say about necessity is the mother of
Right.
invention. That we've seen more and more people that are having traffic stops from police officers. We want to make sure that everybody's safe.
Mhm.
You know, you're supposed to have certain information to be able to give the police officers. Well, Jackie's invented something that can help our individuals who are on the autism spectrum to have the things that they need in a place that's visible, so that and you know, it's great for a lot of different people, for everybody to be safe. But so we're going to be talking about how that can help individuals on the
great.
spectrum. That's on Monday. On Tuesday, we've got another Best of Autism Live. On Wednesday, for Ask Dr. Doreen, we'll have Evelyn Kung here answering questions. On Thursday, autism expert Hillary Klein will be with us. And on Friday, for our show next week, we have Ilana Gershlovitz, the author of the book
Saving My Sons.
Amazing, amazing book. We've had Ilana on the show before. She's a force to be reckoned with from South Africa, and has been instrumental in bringing ABA and help to so many
To
people
South
in South
Africa.
Africa. It was just an amazing person. And then we also will have Vince Redmond.
Okay,
That's
good
a
show.
nice lineup
Okay.
for us and for the whole week next week. So that's next week.
Okay.
We hope that you will join us
Yeah.
then. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me.
And yourself a hug from me.
Bye-bye. for
Bye-bye.
now.